time, let me just ask unanimous consent that the very kind remarks I made about Secretary Gates at the time of his departure be made a part of the record today.
Without objection.
Secretary Gates, last July you had something I never quite understood the position that you were taking relative to increasing the State Department's authority and perhaps their budget in terms of things that are quasi-military. Do you have any thoughts on that you'd like to share with us or clarification? And the reason I ask that, there are some programs I feel very strongly about, such as the IMET program, which was at one time a program that we had certain requirements, and the idea was we're doing these countries a favor by training their people, which I think they're doing us a favor, and then the expansion of the 1206, 1207, 1208 train and equip, that these should remain as DOD-run programs.
I continue to agree with that. I think that I think they should be funded through the Department of Defense. 1206 is basically a dual key program where nothing goes forward without the support of the Department of State and the Secretary of State. We've done a lot of good things with that program in Lebanon, Malaysia, Indonesia, the Philippines, and elsewhere. 1207 is more where an initiative for the State Department, but where the funding is in the Defense Department, and we work cooperatively with the State Department in implementing those programs. And of course 1208 has to do with special forces and training. So I think these are all very important programs, and I think that the approach that has been taken heretofore and the way they've been managed is the way they ought to continue to be managed.
That's good. I've been concerned, as all of us have been up here, with some of our ground capabilities, where we have the Abrams and we have the Bradley vehicle, the Paladin, the Stryker, all on different chassis and all that. Then along came FCS, and I think that there was there's been a lot of discussion. It is on track right now, where we'll have all these systems with the same common chassis. Seems to be working pretty well right now. Do you maintain your commitment? I know tough decisions have to be made, but I'd like to know where you would rank the future combat system in your priorities.
Well, one of the useful things that I think the Army did last summer or fall was to re-examine the future combat systems and see what capabilities being developed in FCS could be accelerated and spun out for the use of forces in the field today. And I've seen some of those capabilities down at Fort Bliss. I think that in terms of the longer lead time items, along with many other large-scale weapon systems, we're going to have to take a close look at it and take a look at the other elements of FCS as we do the major programs of the other services, see what can be made available, what is useful in this spectrum of conflict, from what I would call hybrid complex wars to those of counterinsurgency, where you may encounter high-end capabilities that have been sold to some of our adversaries by near peers, but they are in use in a conflict such as we face in Afghanistan or in Iraq or perhaps elsewhere. So I think all these things are going to have to be looked at. I don't think anything's off the table at this point.
You know, I've appreciated some of the comments that General Chiarelli has made concerning this. An area that has not been brought up yet that I have a particular interest in is AFRICOM. Of course, we went through several years of the continent of Africa being under the Pacific Command, the Central Command, and EUROCOM. Now we have our own AFRICOM, which I think is long overdue, but I'm glad we do. However, I'm concerned with all the problems that are there, that with the squeeze of terrorism in the Middle East and a lot of it going down through Djibouti and the Horn of Africa, and that there are serious problems there. Everyone talks about the Sudan, they're familiar with that, but there are other problems like Joseph Kony and the LRA and what's happening with Mugabe down there. My concern with AFRICOM is it doesn't seem as if they have the resources that they need, and I know there's a lot of competition for these resources. General Ward is doing a great job. General Wald before him was, and of course Admiral Mueller is right in the middle of this. I would like to ask you to maybe have your people evaluate the potential there in AFRICOM and then see what kind of resources they need. Right now, I know that they don't even have an airplane down there to get back and forth. A lot of us had thought that the headquarters should have been in Ethiopia or someplace on the continent. However, there's resistance down there for that. So do you have any thoughts about AFRICOM and about their lack of resources and how we might address that?
Well, it's a reality that we're having to deal with. I would say this, though. As we have tried to help African countries understand what we have in mind with AFRICOM and the role that we would like for it to play in terms of helping them create more democratically oriented, better trained internal security and military forces, and train them for peacekeeping, train them to deal with humanitarian missions and so forth. Clearly, our eagerness to present a military face in terms of civil conflicts or conflicts between states down there has been important. Now, when it comes to Al-Qaeda, I think General Ward does have the resources that he needs in the Horn of Africa and elsewhere. But this is something that we will have to continue to look at. I would say with respect to the headquarters, I made the decision to leave the headquarters in Europe for a 3-year period, because it seems to me what's key for AFRICOM now is building relationships in Africa. And in 3 years, we may have a better idea or the kind of relationship with other countries that will allow us to move the headquarters of AFRICOM to Africa, to be on the continent. I don't think that's possible right now, and so I didn't want to make a permanent decision about moving the headquarters back to the United States.
No, I think you did the right thing, and I appreciate that. Frankly, when you talk to Kikwete, Museveni, and some of the presidents of these countries, they think it would be a better function down there, but they can't sell it to their own people. So that is where we are now. My time's expired, but I hope you got the message I left at your office that while there are a lot of us on this panel and the President has talked about the closing of Gitmo, some of us don't think that's a good idea, and we want to at least be heard as well as the other side. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Inhofe. Senator Reid.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, Mr. Secretary, let me join my colleagues and thank you for your continued selfless service to the nation and the men and women who wear the uniform of the United States, and extend that appreciation to your family who in a very real sense serve with you. This is a singular act of patriotism. We have many challenges, and you have many challenges with respect to the transfer of resources from Iraq to Afghanistan.